All right, it is, actually it's not 4:25, it's
5:30,
5:32, joint meeting of the Rockingham, special board meeting of the joint meeting together, joint board meeting. Are there any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and or pressing matters that will need ratification at a future meeting? No? All right. Approved minutes of January 30th, 2018.
Make the motion that we approve the minutes of January 30th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any public comment on items not on the agenda? 3 minutes per person.
Greg Gay, BDR Transport. Actually, my only comment is that I thought that the trucks in the square issue was going to be addressed next Tuesday, and then I just heard recently that it was for today. So there's a lot of people that are interested in attending the meeting and voicing their opinions next Tuesday.
I think it's Monday.
No, it's
that's
next
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Select Board's Tuesday.
Oh, select
It's on
board.
the
I'm
select
sorry.
board, scheduled for the select board at the first item on the agenda on
Yeah,
Tuesday.
so I'm just hoping that, a decision isn't made tonight,
Yeah.
because I think those people would like to be heard. And one of the interesting comments was that just a few years ago, there was a problem with commercial vehicles on Axon Street, and that people were asked not to take and run their trucks through the residential zone. And now we're being told that we can't go through the square. So that's basically all that I have for today, but again, hope to talk about it more on Tuesday.
Yep, Tuesday at the select board meeting, so any of the other trucking companies that are out there, we hope to see you. And all the information you can bring for us discussion would be great.
I will just take not even my 3 minutes. My name's Kelly Tully from Coda and Coda. Family business here in Bellows Falls for 76 years, just across the building. So yeah, some of the things that I do want to make sure that we are part of the solution. I understand there's been a problem identified, not really clear what the problem is, but I want to make sure that we're part of the solution for that. And if we're going to talk about not sending trucks through town, we have to talk about all of the angles of radius turns, because the current intersections that, as I understand the proposal of what is hoped for, initially the trucks are not going to be able to make those turns safely without the necessary arrangements to change those intersections, to get the swings correct on the different trucks' radiuses. And I do have copies of any radius turns that if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer those questions. Thank you.
Can we get the copies of that for our packets so we can have a look at them?
Yeah, I'll have some packets made for you. Absolutely.
Thanks.
And I just wanted to add as a kind of clarification. Yesterday's trustees meeting was postponed, and it's been rewarned for Monday. And on Monday, the trustees are going to be talking about some ordinance revisions for motor vehicle and traffic. So that might touch upon some of these concerns, but this is just for the trustees to look at the proposed changes. There will still be a public hearing following that, and there's going to be no rush to permanent changes. I mean, it will be late summer by the time anything really takes effect.
So there's 2 meetings,
There'll be-
Monday
yeah.
and Tuesday?
Yeah, the trustees will be meeting on Monday because of the snowstorm.
At what time?
At 6 o'clock. And at Tuesday, the select board will have their usual meeting at 6 o'clock.
Assuming we don't get canceled from the snowstorm. Oh, yeah, Tuesday, yeah.
And the traffic will be discussed at both meetings?
Yes. Yeah,
What
so,
did the select board approve last month
the
regarding the
last,
signs? I mean, didn't you vote to have signs printed up?
Signage, yeah. We did, but we're still in discussion of it only because I felt particularly that we didn't have a real discussion with the trucking companies in town, and we wanted to have that conversation. So the signs have not yet been ordered, and there was still a little uncertainty about what the legal state law was on all that. So we wanted to clarify that first.
So
Yes.
I guess I'm asking, what's the procedure when the board votes for in public meeting, and then there's a conversation afterwards not to do what the board voted to do?
We still also, when we had that vote, that was conditional on what the state law was. We weren't quite clear on that at the time when we made that decision.
Well, it was discussed what state law was, and it was agreed that it was allowed, you could do it.
Yeah, well, we're gonna discuss this all on
So
Tuesday.
you had a vote.
Yeah, can
but
we?
now you're having a discussion
Can I interrupt
after the
you?
vote.
And this is a discussion we're gonna have on Tuesday, okay? Because we're here for the joint board meeting that's dealing with the manager search, and all these questions can come up on Tuesday.
Well, I just feel it's a valid point.
Yeah,
When
okay.
you vote
We're
on
gonna- we're-
something and then decide not to do it after you vote on it because of discussion that was taking place outside the public meeting, I think that's a procedural issue.
We can discuss this on Tuesday, okay?
Again.
All right. Anything else? Thanks, guys, we'll see you Tuesday. Manager search, discuss and approve the VLCT proposal. So, the managers committee sent out requests for proposals to VLCT and also the New Hampshire Municipal Resources, Inc.
yeah.
And the New Hampshire one was 15,000, which we just tossed aside. VLCT was more in they gave us, I don't know, 4,000, 380, I forget what it was exactly, up to 7 was their estimate. And a lot of the range depends on what ads you put out, how wide, where you put ads, because that includes the ad costs. It also includes how many, background searches you do. That will increase the cost as well. We also talked to Gaetano, who was not able to make it here. He spoke to the Ludlow Select Board, who has used VLCT. They're using them now, actually. And I spoke to Heartland and Bethel to see if they were happy with the VLCT process today, because I know there's been a lot of questions in the past about using them, because there's concern that you get a lot of the same old people just recirculated. But all 3 towns that we had spoken to were very happy with the process. They got between 40 and about 50 applicants in the search that led by VLCT. Some went more nationwide, some were more local in their searches, but they all felt that they got a good, 7 to 10 people out of the search to do the interviews with. And I mean, Ludlow's still interviewing and in their process, but the other 2 towns found managers.
How
through
recently was
process.
that? When did they vote to hire their manager? I'm just wondering how recent
They
is
were
the
within
result?
the last
What kind
year.
of result are they getting?
The last year. I mean, Ludlow's going on right now. Heartland was about a year and a half ago, I want to say. Wilmington, who I didn't get to speak to, but I did speak to them up in at the meeting we had up at Montpelier. They seemed happy with their process. So I mean, the towns we spoke to all within the last year and a half to 2 years of their search, and they felt that it was worth the investment. That doesn't mean we have to make that decision, but they felt confident that they got a good slate of candidates who were qualified. So that's so the question is, do we want? I mean, it's 2 actually separate questions, because the trustees will vote and then the select board will vote. Make that investment. The alternative is to go in-house with the committee, put the ads out ourselves. Anticipate we get, in a perfect world, we get 30 to 50 applicants that the committee will have to sort through and come up with a short list to determine the. I mean, the one nice thing about VLCT is, I mean, they've already, since they've been doing this frequently, they already can go through the list and say, oh, no, we've seen this one before, that goes in that pile. And so they ideally will more quickly get us a short list. then maybe we
Do you need a
would.
motion?
Well, that's if they agree with if we agree with their criteria. And just let's look at our own past experience with VLCT. Have we gotten the best bang for our buck? Clearly, we didn't use it with the last manager, the current manager, nor the last manager. But the previous manager, I believe, you used VLCT. And look what we got.
I'm to understand that it's a new leadership at VLCT now, and that's why, I mean, it was like overwhelming, like just the amount of, like, people were just really
Motion for it.
happy to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter either way. I only have one more thing to say, which is that the village can't afford $2,750.
Peter is making,
I would
pointing
make
out
the
that we
motion
do
that
need a
we
motion.
proceed with the process to
Yeah.
use VLCT to do the manager search. That the expenses as stated in their contract.
Okay, now that's the select board side.
Your second from the select board?
I'll second it.
Okay, and then the trustees?
You can just see if they want.
It's like for discussion.
Well, first of all, they have a motion on the
Yeah,
floor,
yeah.
so they have to vote on their motion.
Oh, well, I mean,
It's-
it's,
It's independent, it's separate. We're two separate boards,
Yeah.
we're not one unit, according to Secretary of State.
all right.
Aye.
Excuse
me.
I see your hand, I see your hand.
We
and I
need a
will-
motion on the table before we can discuss anything.
Which
You
is what-
should know that, Joel.
Yeah.
The vote isn't taken before you discuss.
Yes, it is. Then you have discussion on the motion. We're just voting on the motion on the table. We're not voting to proceed with anything yet.
Well, you seconded the motion.
We seconded the motion.
You seconded it.
And then usually you have discussion
That's
after
before
the
you vote
second.
on
Well, I mean, we have two boards here, so I mean, then you can have
Well,
the same.
the point is, we have to agree with you. I mean, the village doesn't
Right.
have to agree. We don't have
No,
to
we know
agree to
that.
use that source, we don't have to agree to pay the money. You know, I'm just one trustee here, I'm just speaking out that I don't think we've had good service, I don't think we need to do that, we're not in that position yet. There are a lot of things VLCT already offers you that are free toolkits that are already on their website to devise your job description and how to hire, you know, those things are available to us already. That we don't necessarily need to have a professional do all of the things that that the committee would do itself.
As we talked, is that we are drawing up our own advertisement. We are deciding, I think we're going to do more of a New England regional search. We're not going to go nationwide. That's going to cut down the top number of the figure. And so what we're paying for is the background checks and the reference checks. Is just paying
But you
them
can
to
do
look
those
at that.
independently. You can use the
But
service
that is a
independently without
very-
that. I mean, really, if we sign a contract, they're going to continue to eat up the dollar figure.
Time-consuming process, Deb, and I don't know.
But we haven't gotten good service from VLCT in past management. Look at it.
But that was.
And it doesn't
They
matter.
have new people at
The person at the
VLCT.
top isn't necessarily the person who does all the grunt work. That's not necessarily the person who's going to be sitting at this table or going to your committee meetings and doing the work for you. You're talking about management. You're not
That's why
talking
we asked-
necessarily talking about the person who's going to do that work for you. And I don't see why the committee is formed if the committee's not going to do any work. In that case, you might as well sign this contract and then have them come in and present to every one of us each time, as opposed to just you guys.
We
just
are-
the smaller committee.
We're
It
not
doesn't make
throwing
sense.
away all of the work. This is.
Yes, but we're paying for it.
I'd like to just add from my years of experience in interviewing and hiring and the opposite, I would, as a member of the committee, I would expect to do reference checks. I think to offload reference checks on something like this is.
It's
leaves-
background checks, actually, not.
I don't-
Sorry. Yeah,
Background checks are a different thing. Those have to be done. I suspect we do that for any employee here, the background checks. So, but on the reference checks, I wouldn't feel comfortable farming that out to anybody.
What I see getting from VLCT, sorry, Susan.
Yeah, well, I just
Yeah, if you want to, here,
I just want to get Joel's, either wait until we have our discussion, and I see your hand, so I'm not ignoring it, but,
Go ahead, Linda.
yeah, go ahead.
Relevant to this.
Okay.
So my question is that you seem to have rationalized the not using New Hampshire based upon the price, but did you check out the value of it? By the way, I agree with Mr. McCullough that there's certain things that you farm out and don't farm out from my years of interviewing people also. I guess my question is, you did references and called up references on VLCT. and asked how satisfied they were with the results. Did you do the same thing with New Hampshire, or did you just discount them out of pocket because it was too much out of pocket?
It was too much out of pocket. We discounted them. I mean,
Okay.
we would have gone back to them if we had not got good references from the towns who did a recent search. Then we might have considered looking at the New
And the
Hampshire.
reason I ask that is that good searches and good search crews and teams can turn up some very good results. I also am concerned because you're limiting it to a regional search rather than going nationwide, if at all possible, because, hey, New England's a great place to move to, and there's some very, very qualified people who may want to move from Boulder, Colorado, and come here and bring a lot to the table.
Well, the committee hasn't, I mean, the committee wants approval of VLCT, and then once we had approval for spending the money to VLCT, then we were going to discuss the exact services, and we could see a spread of how much we could spend on advertising and how much we could spend on, because what I see the committee getting out of VLCT is a list of 9 to 10 strong candidates, you know, out of whatever pool of people apply, you know, the 40 to 50 that they said, is them clearing it out to just 10 strong candidates that we then can then interview and research ourselves in depth. And I see that as being well worth, you know, our money. I know the village, we don't have the money to spend almost, but that's so valuable to have a professional organization give us that list of 10 people that we can then find a strong manager.
So are you limiting it to those 10 and then you'll make a decision from those 10? Or if you disallow that whole group of 10, you would say, bring us the next group of this, because those 10 may end up turning you down.
Right.
That's not the appropriate
That's,
offer.
yeah, we'd be conducting those 10 interviews.
Always
you know.
money.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, there is that possibility. I know Heartland had to go out for a second search. They had that problem when their top 2 candidates turned them down. And so the third candidate they had interviewed wasn't happy, so they sent it out. So that is very much a possibility. Jake.
I certainly don't have a problem with VLTC. I don't want to give anybody that impression. I think they would do a fine job. My feeling is, though, that certainly from the village standpoint, I would like to at least get the ads out through the websites and through the local advertising and see what kind of response we get. So I think we could avoid the expense if we get a good response. If we don't get a good response, then I could see asking them to do that aspect of the search for us.
The only practical objection I have to that is that we go out to local candidates and we go, oh, you know, say we have 3 people who are okay, but when we then decide to go out for a professional search, those 3 people who we like to apply to us initially are now going to have to wait for additional weeks. Because I've had that happen before, where in a job search, and they say, oh, can you wait a couple extra weeks? It's like, well, no, I want a job now.
Well, I don't know.
And so we
I don't
lose
understand that, because
those
if you get
we're making them wait. It's like,
if you get a reasonable response, legitimate candidates, why do you have to say, wait, we're going to go back to a pool? Why wouldn't you just proceed with those
with 3
interviews?
okay candidates.
Yeah. I think certainly with all the activity that's been going on, I think this website would serve us quite well in terms of people that have already considered town manager jobs and also considered those town manager jobs in Vermont.
I'm sorry, which website are you referring to?
I'm sorry?
Which website are you referring to?
Well, I was under the impression that there's a municipal website
Yeah, there's, okay.
that does, I know on the school board, we use that exclusively. We had two superintendents ago, we used the Superintendents Association, and we're not happy with their work, and so we did it ourselves the last time around. But, and we got some excellent candidates from around, certainly around New England. So I just think that you know, and quite frankly, I mean, I don't know if anybody else is sensitive to this, but I sat there 18 months ago and witnessed what Monty Barnett did, and was shocked, absolutely shocked that that kind of stuff could go on. And I'm sensitive about the past record of town manager jobs and how long they've lasted in this town and village. And so I'm concerned about that in terms of the you know, what can happen, what one person can do to disrupt a professional job like that. It just bothers me terribly. So
Well, at this point, it's, I mean, we basically have, well, there's many options, but the two options we're discussing is VLCT, which is an investment of $5,000 to $7,000 for them to pre-screen the candidates that they send to us, to get the advertisements out, to get all the, you know, the applications that come in. They're not going to land on Carrie's desk. We'll get a packet of people. They can arrange the interviews for us, or have the committee do it. And those are basically where we're.
A little bit of history, I was on a couple of these searches, both with VLCT and doing it in-house. When we go back a ways. When Roberta Smith was here, she lasted the longest, 5 years. There was a group of probably 7 people on that board. I think there are only 2 members of the current boards. There's a trustee and a select board member, but then we also incorporated people from the public and got public input on there. We had some pretty good people in there. That's why we got a good manager. I don't know about Paul McGinley, how he was hired. Maybe Carrie can tell. I was not that involved in that
This is
one.
when we got Roberta?
Yeah, I was on that one.
She was phenomenal.
Well, anyway, thank you. But you go to the last one where we did it in-house, before Chip and before Shane. That one we did in-house, and we see where that one ended up. We had 2 outside, one was from Michigan, and he was ex-service, the other was from Texas. We got down to it, the Michigan guy was involved with a divorce, so he backed out at the last minute, so we were back between the guy from New Hampshire and the Texas guy. The group never went back and talked to the Texas guy, they just immediately hired the next guy down the road because I think they got sick of looking. So, which reflects on how you do things. You know, you get down, you do it in-house, you could drag this thing out for another 6 months, and we got 3 months to do this in. So, any way we can expedite it and get it down the road, I just think that's the way to go. But
The LCT has said 8 to 10 weeks is, you know, you can do it a little bit longer, 8 to 12 weeks, but that's sort of the time range that they have given in our, which we didn't print out so I can send it to anyone, all of the appendixes, because it was 47 pages long, which is why we didn't print it all out. But they gave a time, I don't know if the timeline is in the first.
It's in the timeline,
It is,
yeah,
it
it's
is.
in there.
And in their packet, they also gave samples of ads and job descriptions that they've used for other towns, as well as a list of managers who replied to their survey of their salary, how many years in service, what their qualifications were, to give us a sense of comparative within the state of Vermont. And yeah, most of them only 2 to 3 years. I mean, we are a little unusual. We're a little shorter than that, but I mean, we're not that unusual with the duration of our town managers, sadly. It's the nature of the game in some ways, but.
So right there, I'm hearing you say, you've got templates. They sent you all this stuff, examples of letters, examples of this, examples of that, surveys, so on and so forth. It's all working material that the committee could use. And I know what you're saying, but again, I'm against spending that kind of money, not to mention that we're looking at not just 5,500, but up to which is what it says in the document, in the contract, but up to $7,000, which it doesn't even say the maximum 7,000. It could go beyond that based upon placing ads and so on and so forth. You don't know where they're placing them. And that, now we're getting into $3,500. It just keeps on creeping up. It's a concern unless you plan on taking the money that the village pays off of their salary, because
Well,
the
boards would make the decision of, they would agree on an ad budget. We could not go over that, and if we had to go over that, we weren't getting what we needed, we'd have to come back for approval of more ads. So we can control those costs.
So who's on the committee right now?
It is Gaetano and myself for the select board, Jiggs and Miles, Michael Bruno, and Rick Cohen. That's they're on the committee.
We had anyone could have written into, there was very few volunteers.
Look, I just want to know, because I wasn't aware
Yeah.
of exactly who was on the committee. So,
Yeah.
because the boards hadn't been advised of who's on the committee.
Have you reached out to employees? Because usually every
Yes.
parent, no employee wants to be on it either.
We didn't reach out for them to be on the committee at this point, but they will be, we've discussed about getting them involved when we get to the interview process,
I think
and the
it
selection process.
Well,
I mean, at this point, we've been meeting.
They're either on the committee or they're not on the committee.
But we want to get people
Middle of the
involved.
process.
In the end, there'll be a meet and greet process where there'll be, we might even, there's several ways we can do it, is to have the candidate come, they can walk through the building, meet staff, have conversations with people, and that way they can get a sense of, but that's when we get down to the last
That's not-
few.
We haven't
Staff on it.
discussed exactly how the interview process will go. At this point, we just want to get the ad out there and make a decision. Are we using, and we have to know about VLCT, because we have to know where those ads are going. Are they going to their office in Montpelier, or are they coming here? We'd like to get the ad out next week. And so that's why we'd like to have a go-ahead one way or another.
Was there any interest from the employees in being on this committee? If I remember right, I think we had one employee on that committee when we hired people. The committees I was involved in, I was just curious.
Not this
I
particular
mean, it would seem,
time.
these guys gotta work with this, whoever we hire. I mean, you would think they would at least give you some input as to who they'd like to see or what they'd like to see in a manager. I
We've
mean,
already talked, I've talked to I've had communication with all the department heads at this point. And some
As
of
I
the
say,
staff.
I only attended the first meeting that Dory and I both went to that first meeting, just an organizational meeting with the committee, and was shocked to find only 4 or 5 people there.
Didn't hear about it, so.
I just think the committee shouldn't have too many board members on, because they're the final decision makers, number one. So they're gonna screen everybody, then they're gonna interview, and then they're gonna bring it back to the board for a final interview. So they're getting 3 shots at it, where the 7 or 10 of us here are gonna end up making a final decision based on 4 or 5 people that are making that's just my opinion. Take it for what it is.
Sue,
Yeah.
Carrie, just as a question that you may not have this off the top of your head, because we did just do a search, obviously, for a finance director, and we did that on our own. Do we, ballpark, do you know how much we spent advertising, anything along that line? I was just kind of curious where it's, if it's weighing in, that stuff adds up quick. I do it all the time.
You could probably
so.
easily enough pull the 2 bills from VLCT and New Hampshire Municipal Resources. That's where Shane advertised.
Right.
Was
So-
on another website that.
Was there one other beside that?
Indeed.
Indeed. Indeed.com's not that expensive.
No.
I use it now. And you can decide how far you want to range with it, so, and how many replies you want to get to that. So that's not very expensive, but all I'm saying is that you could figure out if you needed to.
But we also
That's my-
didn't, in that particular search, we didn't get a wide pool of
Applicants.
So the advertising cost, it really will, we could do like 2, we have a top list, okay, we want to make sure it goes here, 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 and here, and that's a certain price, what, it's $1,000, I don't know what it is, I'm just throwing out a number. if that's not successful, I mean, you should know rather quickly when the ad goes out how responsive it is. Then we could expand.
But again, you can do the ad without hiring VLCT.
Yeah, because one of I think, it wasn't Bethel, it was Heartland. Heartland did only a regional ad, and they still got 40 people. So that's really what we want, a large pool of people, because we want to be able to select the best person we can.
But if you're just doing what, New England? That's what it sounds like when you say regional, that's all your coverage area is.
New York,
You may
New
not
England.
get the best, you might get a lot of
we could go
regurgitated
nationwide.
managers who.
Anyone who's
already gone
interested
through.
is going,
It's money,
that's interested in coming to New England is going to zone in on that
On those
website. Yeah, on those
websites.
ads. Doesn't matter if you're from Florida or California.
Okay.
To-
And I mean, part of that
waste money
yeah.
spending advertising in other parts is.
And
I
it
think,
goes out, I
pointless.
mean, one of the things that it would go out to is the municipal, the
Yeah.
national municipal, I don't know the exact
Yeah.
name of the group is. I mean, it would go out and that would get national. Joe?
So I guess it boils down to what's your ROI here? Your costs are 7,000 max versus probably about $2,000 max. So your difference is going to be roughly $5,000. Is the return that you're going to get on that in terms of the quality of the responses warrant a $5,000 expenditure? Because that's going to be the difference between the two roughly, I would guess. I mean, you can nitpick over a couple $100, but round numbers, it's going to be about a $5,000 difference. So is the value to be provided by VLCT is worth $5,000? And from previous experience that I've seen over the last 15 years, if I had to go back 5 years, I'd say probably marginal, but you're telling me that there's a significant improvement, and you also said that Heartland got a bunch of responses, or a number of responses, and if I heard you correctly earlier, that was done through VLCT. So you're probably going to get a reasonably good pool of responses, at least initially.
I personally think it's
Pretty
worth it,
decision, folks.
but hope. Sorry.
Yeah, hope.
Well, this might, why don't you guys do it one way, and they can do it another way?
That's not gonna work.
Because it's a committee.
But,
Well,
I mean, also, I think you're wrong. It'd be better if you kind of expanded your area.
We're not saying when it goes into national papers, we're not gonna nationwide, like, put out to the Washington Post, to the New York Times, or to, nationwide papers. It's gonna be national in the sense that the National Association of
Okay, so
Municipal
anybody
blah, blah,
over
blah.
there has to see it,
Yes.
okay.
So, I mean, it will have a national reach,
Okay.
but we're not gonna target specific papers in a
No,
national
I
audience.
didn't think that. I just thought, the good weather's coming. People go, oh, Vermont, have you ever thought of going there? I mean, that's how we got here, so,
Okay, so,
really.
so you
is
want
there
to,
further discussion? I mean,
leave the vote the way it is? You want to rescind it and kick the ball down the field again?
Well, did the select board approve it already?
We voted to go with it.
we voted to go with it.
I mean, I guess it's up to us if it's what Jakes and Deb, you've shared concerns. Steve, what do you think?
It is tough. Like I said, we do it both ways. From the corporate piece, we do in-house, but additionally, if we're looking to, have a fresh look on something, if we tried it a couple times, or we're bringing in we want a new perspective on on how to do something, then we will outsource. So, I guess it's a good point, from an investment standpoint. If we were still, we're on the hook for the advertising. Like I said, I think $2,000 is probably a good ballpark. Versus top end 7, I'd really like to see us put a much lower limit on that, and then and go from there. So I guess I was hesitant at first, just as I hate to rule out people, and that would be my biggest fear, is that obviously, going from past histories, we have had some issues, but I understand that, if they think they've cleaned the process up, and if we've gotten, I think the testimonials from a couple of the municipalities helps, particularly being in the last 18 months or so. So I guess I'd probably lean towards doing the VLCT.
Gary?
Yeah, hi, Gary Fox, Development Director, and I just, working in town and seeing how much everyone has on their plates, and seeing that we're almost in April, so we're down to 3 months from today without any advertisements having gone out. VLCT being network and being able to help bring a lot of those administrative pieces to the committee, so that the committee can do its due diligence and final calls, but ensuring that we have enough of an applicant pool for the committee to look at and make those calls on, just a consideration. And just wanted to trust the elected officials to come up with the best solution there, but just wanted to throw that in, just the shortest amount of time and how much is on everyone's plate. Thanks.
Well, I still think that the village needs to consider the fact that we're over budget in a number of different areas, and I just signed the warrants today. There's another large bill to pay out to the for legal fees, as well as other areas that are overrun. So what I'm saying is that this is being spent in the last of our budget money, and we've cut a lot of areas which probably would have preferred that we had kept money in, and here we are throwing half of that money out the window when possibly just the ads would take care of getting the number of applicants that we require.
Well, I guess just to move, I'll make the motion that we adopt the VLCT. I can't remember how yours. The VLCT proposal for the manager search. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Peter, you had something else?
If the vote is to go that way, and you guys are being a little bit obstinate about spending the money, what if we split it a little differently? Say 60-40, 70-30?
Well, in that case, why don't you take 100% of it?
Yeah.
I mean, look at, you guys got $1 million in non-restricted funds, and we have like none ours. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just throwing it out there for discussion.
The town always leads on how much money we'll be paying the guy or girl, whoever it is.
This is a joint venture here.
I know, it's a joint venture, but typically the village gets the lower side of that. We don't get as much say in how much money is being paid and so on and so forth. I don't believe that. So trying to defend the village's budget and the lack of funds and the taxpayers' dollars is the reason why I'm saying this. It's like, you really can't, guys would have to vote to take more of the share at this point. Typically it's 50%. We're going to pay 50% of it. I don't agree with it. I know you already know Jiggs doesn't agree with it, but as long as you got 3, you're all good.
Joel's out there again.
Yes,
So
Joe.
Is the current proposal a not to exceed $7,000?
It doesn't say that.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say that.
We
Well,
can
it
make
says
it
it in
move.
their, in their proposal, it says it will not exceed 7,000. In what we're,
So
yes.
is there another dollar amount you could give them not to exceed, like 6,000 without an additional vote or something like that?
You're signing this.
There's
It doesn't
an
say
item
that.
C on this contract that says to pay the league at a rate of $88 per hour for professional services and $44 per hour for professional support services. Now, is that in addition to the?
no.
No, I think they're just clarifying how they're paying the total. If you look through that, the proposal,
I didn't see.
they're paying for getting these people here. So if you guys are going out on your own to do it, are you gonna do the same thing or say, we're on your own getting here if we want to interview you? Then all of a sudden these people say, well, hell, if I gotta dish $500 out from the airfare, I'm not coming. So then you start losing your pool of people. Whereas this way, they're gonna find out people that, VLCT will at least get you the people that are interested in the job and are willing to come here and talk about it.
Right, but that's on top of the,
No, it's included in the proposal.
again,
Some-
Again, this is a contract. It doesn't say maximum $7,000. It
No,
doesn't
it
say
says
that.
managed expenses to ensure total cost does not exceed 5,500.
Yeah, plus.
the cost of
Right,
advertising.
so it could run over 7,000. That's what I'm trying to say. If you want a contract that gives them a
But
top limit, you have to give them one.
We would be determining where the ads are placed, and we know the cost of the ads. So the committee would be making that. We're not saying, throw it out, okay, go advertise.
But I mean-
We, at our committee meeting on tomorrow, we will, either way it goes, we are gonna look at that list of ad sources, and we will make a decision of where we're gonna run, and we will, 2,000 is a number in my head, but may not be that much, depending on, when we look at that list and what their costs are.
Might I make a suggestion? I think Joel's probably heading in the right direction. Why don't we just get back to VLCT and say, give them a not to exceed number?
There you go.
Yeah, well, that would have to be
Tell
in the
them
contract before you
6,000.
sign it.
I know, but
Yeah.
they can redo a contract,
Yeah.
fax it down here and email it. It doesn't take long to email.
Yeah, we don't have to sign something tonight, we just
Right,
want.
but we need to decide what direction we're gonna take. We're gonna sit here and diddle around with this another 2 months, and then the next thing you know, it's June, and you haven't got anybody on hand.
No, have you even done your job description yet?
Yes.
We have a
And
draft.
we haven't, and why haven't the rest of all of us seen it? I'd ask
Oh, I
that.
was gonna ask that question.
I
Because I
have
think that's
copies-
important that we all are part of that.
I have copies of it here, but right now.
But you didn't include it in the agenda, so it's not something we were supposed to be getting. That's what I'm saying, it's not transparent.
It is transparent. It was on the committee meeting.
Right, but it's not the-
committee meeting agenda.
But it's not on the agenda
It should
that we're
be.
at right now.
But
It should be handed out at our meeting next week. The job
we've had
description
it.
should
It's
be
been
finalized.
3 weeks. We've had
Right.
3 meetings, and the job description has been on that agenda and on, I believe, also put up on the website, at least for 2 of those meetings.
I don't see Carrie saying yes.
I've
but I
got a
don't know.
couple,
I'd have to look.
I got a couple of changes that I want to
Yeah.
propose.
You see what I'm saying?
We
You have to
haven't
go to advertise.
finalized a job description yet. So, part of the reason, for having the committee is for the committee to come up with that and then get it to you.
Right,
Still
but
in
you're
the
talking
draft
about, but
stage.
you leaped over that because the conversation here has been about advertising, not about the first step, which is a job description, appropriate job description. I think Peter's trying to get your attention.
Could I make an adjustment to the motion?
Yes.
Oh,
That the split be 70-30 town to village?
Yeah, right on.
If our
That's a friendly amendment.
colleagues.
You made the motion. You made the motion.
I agree to
This is
that.
this
but I
is
need
the village vote.
Yes, and this is the village vote, but
They would have
if
to
we
would have
amend
to
it to that.
They'd have to reconsider,
Yeah,
obviously.
so he's not leaving money on the table, go 60-40.
Just a comment on the job description. Reading the manager's contract and the state statute, it pretty well delineates what the manager does. So if you're trying to change that, you can't trump state statute. So if you've got something in there that you think the manager is going to be responsible for that doesn't cover that, it's a moot point. If you look at the manager's contract, it specifically states in the contract when you sign whoever signs it, it's agreeable. It's what per state statute, and it states the statute of what it is, and then it says in there, at least the one I read today, was that, and any other duties that may be assigned, but they can't trump, you can't tell him he's gonna do something that the state has already delineated to do it. So I don't know what the big hubbub is about the
No, I'm
job
asking-
description, but I agree with you, Debbie, that we should
We
see
should
it.
see it, yeah.
Even though it's on a
Not
website,
to mention, one of the things that we have had difficulties with, and I'm not going to name names or whatever, over the last several years, is difficulty with managers who do not respond well to boards. They don't work well with us. They might turn towards an agitation state. They may reject any request for information. Those things happened in the last three managers or so. So we have to think about that. In your job description,
just a draft.
it's something that we have a problem with.
This is just the draft of the job description. It's a work in progress. It's gone out to the heads of all the departments for them to provide feedback to as well. I didn't give it to, I just did individual Carrie, but.
But before we finish, should we finish the vote? This is a
Yeah,
separate
we're
subject,
still in
right?
discussion on the motion, so.
Okay.
Was there a second to?
Yeah, I seconded it.
And then.
Wait, but
we've
what
had
what
a-
about the amended
Oh, the
motion?
didn't
The
second the
amended, did
amendment.
anybody second
Oh,
the
is this
amendment?
Extra copy.
I don't think so.
Yes, we got it.
Can I?
Yeah.
I'll second the amendment. And we can,
That's for 70/30.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where we were.
And so do we want to just settle that vote and then
Yep.
talk more about this? All those in favor of the motion?
Oh, wait, what was the motion?
The motion was that we accept the VLCT proposal with the friendly amendment that the split is 70/30, town 70, village 30%.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. Now we have these.
Well, we have to decide whether or not we're going to agree to them.
Oh, yeah, please.
Oh, yeah, figure that out.
Is there a motion from the select board to agree to 70/30 split search? So that would be instead of 3,500, it would be more like, we're taking on 5.
$2,100. If we went with if we lower the do not to exceed number, then it'd be less. If you go to 6, it's gonna be 1,800. Go to 5, 1,500. Simple, 3 times whatever the number is.
Depends on what comes out in the wash, yeah, at the end
So if we
of the contract.
establish, one thing I don't see on this is it doesn't say anything about familiarity with the computer system that we have. It's a numeric system. If they don't know what they're doing, God help us.
Yep.
Number 2 is, it
That's gotta
doesn't
be
say
in.
anything about familiarity with municipal finances.
Yep, that
which
needs to be in there
is
too.
gonna be different than normal finances. As we find, the school board is different than from municipal. I haven't been on both boards, I can tell you. It's,
And another thing that I don't see
I'm
in
not
here,
saying.
and
Can
I've
we,
read the whole thing.
wait, can we make a decision on the
That.
70/30? Go back to that first before we go into the jobs.
I will make the motion that we, in lieu of the fact that, that maybe the only way we can have the trustees going on it is, that I would make the motion that we split the cost of the do not exceed number to be a 70/30 split, being the town would take 70% and the village would be 30.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
I have had a discussion with Mr. Futignano, and he says that they don't want to do 50/50, then make another offer. So the offer was thrown on it. I assume he would go along with the same, because that was one of the numbers he mentioned. He mentioned 60/40, 70/30. Just to get this down, moving down the road, because we gotta get off the dime here.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. So I will go back to VLCT and see if we can reduce that do not exceed number. But we will have this
Just tell them
discussion
what you
tomorrow.
want. You don't have to ask them what they want. Just tell them.
The other,
Well, I mean, they do, I mean, I think it also depends on how many, I mean, if you get you get 50, 60 applicants, not that this we were, they've got to do work on those 50 or 60 applicants.
Well, there may be
So-
some expenses in here, you may be able to,
Susan, I
like
have a-
the travel expenses type of thing. I mean, you know, if you get somebody that's local, then you don't
Which-
really have to pay them the thing.
Yeah.
It's just that if you get
And-
somebody
but-
cross country, then you're gonna be looking at $1,500
Also-
They've
for an
also
airline.
have done, that would come in when it comes to the final interviews.
Well,
And
First
we've done
round interviews
we
would
did
be done by
Skype
Skype
on
or
the
Yeah.
fire chief.
Yes, I was gonna say,
search,
it's the
so-
21st century, you don't need.
Yeah, I know.
just- You
Yeah.
don't
It would
need
be,
to have them here.
yeah, it would be in the,
You wouldn't
that
get,
would come down
only
if
ones
we
you're
were
really
having any,
interested, you'd
in
end
a,
up doing, it'd be 2 or
in the
3.
final.
Yeah, that'd be fine, that'd be fine.
Susan,
Yeah,
in
let me get to the
reference
board
this-
first, yes.
In reference to this here, and I hear it every time and I've been here a while, and when we go out to hire a manager, and I haven't read this whole thing, so if it's in here, let me know, but is there anything for a residency requirement? I mean, we're going to be paying a substantial amount of money for someone who may not even live in this community, who may not even care about this community once they punch the clock to go home.
But
No, there isn't anything in,
And then when you look at,
State statute.
I'd like to see if there's
Yeah.
other
Have to
ads
be.
that people or municipalities advertise for managers where they require them to move into the community.
I don't know if
I
you can
think-
do that right now. I mean, that's,
Well,
I mean, it could be
now's the time to
encouraged,
do
you
it.
could say language
Do you read the statute?
encourage.
Because that state statute says
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be,
There's,
resident.
I think there's.
Right,
some
statute says it
ways.
doesn't have to, but I've been aware of other municipal jobs where we've required, or other towns have required, if you're going to come work there, that's a requirement. They want you to move there. And I think that's important because we could be paying people substantial amounts, or a person a substantial amount of money who, like I say, when they go home and punch the clock at night, you know, they don't care till the next morning they punch the clock. And you're going to put some money into somebody that you want to have, in my opinion, a vested interest in this community, who's going to get actively involved in this community, aside from coming here from the 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or whatever it may be.
Yeah, but I
right?
think we can
Well,
only do what we're legally allowed to do, and I
There's
don't know.
nothing
if
illegal
that-
about
There's nothing
that.
legal. We
There's
can make
nothing
it
illegal about that.
Stricter. I'm not saying we necessarily should, but you can be stricter than the statute. You can ask that the person be a resident, moved
So-
here. However, usually you
If-
pay for that.
if we get
to get them moved. You're
Right.
not paying for moving expenses
Well,
unless you plan to.
Let's hit the straight here. I mean, you could have somebody apply from Concord, hire them, and then they're going to be driving back and forth to Concord. You know, I want somebody that's going to take an interest in this community. And I think that's important, and I hear it from the people that every year, or every time we come up to look for a manager, is why don't they live in the community?
I'd like to just paraphrase Gaetano from one of the meetings. It's just like, let's get people applying first,
Yeah.
and then we can worry about
Well,
these.
Yes. So,
By the way, I agree with that. I have a couple of observations here. One of the things, you were talking about having to have expertise in, what is that, NIMROC?
NIMRIC.
Or whatever it is.
NIMRIC, yeah.
yeah.
That will significantly reduce the pool of applicants. It is probably not something that you want to put in there, because experience and expertise in basically governmental accounting
No,
systems
it's
and
not.
financial systems would be more than adequate, I would think.
Well, we do have a finance director, and we aren't saying
Sort of.
has to be proficient, just has to be familiar.
So, and
Wouldn't
familiar
take
with.
long to get up
But
to
they don't, but
speed.
someone from Colorado who may want to move here, who may be exemplary in every other case, may want to spend their own money and move here, would be eliminated, because it's like, no, I haven't seen that. I could come up to speed in 30 months, and it might be part of their 30, 60, 90-day plan, but I don't think you want to put that in there as a requirement. It would be familiarity with with the governmental financial system, not necessarily that restrictive. It's like saying
Not ours.
that you need to be
Yeah.
No.
proficient
No, I
in
think
Word,
that's-
SAP.
That would be
That's-
adequate,
That's,
yeah.
that would be the appropriate way
Okay.
to do it.
Thank you.
So that does need to be there.
The other thing is, I say, yeah, get the people in here first. And by the way, I think that's a great idea, doing the 70-30 split, and I don't live in Bellows Falls, but they get double hit with that,
Thank
so
you.
that was pretty nice.
What-
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate something Peter said earlier about your committee itself. You're just getting the search out now, so it's not too late to reach out again, double your efforts. The bigger the committee can be, the better the result, bottom line.
Well, I mean, there's that, but also we have to have a quorum, and the bigger the committee is, then you have quorum issues. I mean, we've had problems already with that because people have been on
I mean,
vacation.
A lot of
But
people haven't heard about it, maybe.
it was advertised, and it was announced at several meetings and for several weeks, and we got very little response.
Yeah, and
So,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
we, at the time, we were looking for about a 9 to 9 kind of
You want to keep
range
an odd number.
for the committee. Right now we have 6. Yeah. So,
Well, you want to be on it? I mean,
all right. Anything else? If you have comments, this just to give a summary. I mean, a lot of this job description came from past searches, but also cribbed from what other towns have put on their thing. So there might be some redundancies. It's by no means a final thing. It's very much in the draft. So any comments? And I'm getting feedback also from staff.
Municipal finance, that was one of the things that, that's a concern.
I'm sorry, but from a,
It says financial management, but financial management from from the private sector is not the same thing. So we do need public sector experience.
right.
Okay. That's good.
I'm sorry, but from a procedural issue, I heard a not to exceed number from the Rockingham Select Board, but I did not hear a not to exceed number from the,
You're
I'm
correct.
Didn't we?
Discuss that.
No, we
We'll
didn't.
Throw it on
We
the table,
didn't add a-
well, no,
Not to exceed.
I mean, I agree with the not to exceed, and then if you have to, you go back to it also. The only observation I would have on the not to exceed is it may, you're in a day where you can do Zoom, WebEx, all kinds of stuff, you can do video conferencing to get the first round of applicants. You may end up saying, this is a perfect candidate, or these 3 are the perfect ones, it's going to go above our budget, you can do an amendment to the not to exceed at a future meeting, can't you? If you're going to go over like $250 in travel expenses.
Yes.
So, but from a procedural standpoint, I think the trustees need to vote for the not to exceed number 2.
I move that that expenses, that total expenses for the town and the village for the VLCT contract should not exceed, is it 6,000?
7,000.
7,000. Oh, 7,000.
That's what the contract currently calls for.
Including, that it includes advertisement.
Including advertising.
Including advertising.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'd make the same motion.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
Oh, okay, I'll second it. I'm ready.
All those in
She's
favor?
writing. Aye.
All right, is there anything else? We will be meeting, as the committee will be meeting at noon tomorrow on the 3rd floor, for any who would be interested. And it's been at noon because that's been the convenience for those of us who are on the
Have to
committee.
make the meeting, yeah.
So. All right, anything else? Any other business? All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn. All, second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.